So, how did you come to be involved with the marker?
Originally, it was an audition I got presented with through my agent. I met with Justin Edgar, the director, and it was slightly different to a usual audition. I guess he initially just really wanted to talk about the world in which the film kind of occupies, the character of Marley, and me as a person. And I think from that initial conversation blossomed something that we really made a connection with each other, and we really tried to. Well, I mean, what it did lead to then was a really quite intensive prep phase. I mean, Justin asked me how I like to work as an actor, and my favourite way is to, if time allows, which often it doesn't, unfortunately, to have some time with the director to kind of discuss the script, to build a character together, and we did have that luxury in this project. So that would often lead to many. We'd arranged initially just to really get to know each other fully once they'd offered me the part, and we'd set up meetings once a week, and just to discuss the script, and before you knew it, we would go so off piste, and trade war stories or experiences, and often just go really in a completely different direction, and realize after 5 hours, oh sugar, we've only covered like 5-10 pages of the script, so all right, well, we've got to carry on next week. And that process went on for a period of months, and through that, a real friendship blossomed. So I don't know where it cut off, but we so I mean, me and Justin, we've spent a lot of time together, and with a little indie project like this, where you haven't got an awful lot of time to shoot and make those sort of creative decisions on set, it really allowed us to kind of sew up all those loose ends before we actually started shooting, and really develop a shorthand between ourselves. So it meant that we could actually spend that time really just getting the stuff that we needed, rather than having to work things out creatively, I guess.
What was your process for getting in the headspace of this character, who is a criminal who's trying to redeem himself? It seems I don't want to spoil too much of
Sure.
the film for people that are listening, but you did something very bad, and you're trying to make amends for it, but that has to put quite a bit of strain on you as an actor. It feels like it's so emotionally heavy that it had to weigh down on you a little bit.
Completely. And with him being such a central role in the film, and it's not like an ensemble piece. It's pretty much tracks his journey as a young guy trying to make his way through life. How I prepared for it, I mean, there's an awful lot of life experience that I can draw from, without going into too much detail. But I mean, I went to quite a rough school, and through growing up, you're exposed to I grew up in London, and you're kind of exposed to all manner of things, I guess, violence and sexual abuse, and not me specifically, but it was never far away, shall we say. So it was an area that was relatively familiar, and yet there's nothing really that can quite prepare you as an actor for once the starting pistol goes, so to speak. You kind of you have to be open and willing to engage with whatever's thrown in front of you. And because it was such an intense shoot, there's always a time. It's usually after a week or two. I mean, I was working 6-day weeks, sort of 16-hour days. Often you'd finish working, drop your clothes at costume, take your makeup off, and pretty much have a bite to eat, quick beer, and go to bed. And when you just live in that role in such a intense way, you end up the crossover for me usually comes when I start dreaming as the character. That's when I know that boundaries is becoming blurred slightly, and yet you have to immerse yourself in a role like this. There's no point in sitting on the fence. I think so. As for me, it was incredibly important for Marley's journey and his sort of emotional path, I guess, to feel really visceral, to be something that the audience can relate to. And in immersing myself in that way, I hope that some of that carries across on screen as well. So.
At the end of the shoot, was it easy to just to break yourself free of the character, or did it kind of remain with you for a little bit, and you had to go through a process of just becoming yourself again?
Strangely enough, there was just a project that I worked on previously. It's a project called Snow in Paradise, which was different but similar sort of demand on oneself as an actor. And it was more so on that project that it was more difficult to let go afterwards. But having been through that process during that time, I also learned quickly to ring fence certain parts of my private life to really sort of make sure you can get back to home base with and be safe about it. I mean, sure, you need to decompress a little bit afterwards, and there's nothing like one would hope a reasonably stable home life to allow that to take place. But, yeah, no, it's never easy. It's never easy, I have to say, but it's crucial for one's sanity.
When it comes to the roles that you choose, do you have a particular type that you like to play, or are you pretty much open to whatever comes around?
No, I mean, my parameters of the roles that I take on are pretty wide, I guess. I mean, it's by its nature. You do one project, people see that project, and they think, okay, he would be good in that role. So there's a sort of succession of events that take place, which can seemingly put you into a certain category or genre of characters. But no, I mean, for me, it's not so much about the type of character. It's more about, is there something I can get my teeth into? Is there depth character? Does it raise questions for myself as a human being? Does it make me ask questions about my own being as a person? And I mean, I think by nature I'm quite curious as a person. I like to lift the lid on maybe certain areas of life that often in society we tend to shut out, and be, it's also part of why I love the profession that I do so much, because it really takes you to all manner of places as long as you're open to go there, and like I said, leave those breadcrumbs for yourself to get back again. Then yeah, it's a very fulfilling job.
Up to this point, what's been your favorite role to play so far?
There's been, I don't know if I can earmark it down to one specific role. I mean, that first project I had called Snow in Paradise, that was a real journey for me as a person. And I mean, equally with the director and the people we worked with, there was something really epic about that journey that we all went through in the process of making that film. So that's something that will stick with me for life. But then, roles like Metallo on Supergirl, it's something much more at first glance kind of surface level stuff. It is what it is. You're a super villain who can shoot laser beams from his chest, and has to tussle with Supergirl and Superman. How much emotional depth goes into that, what one can question. And yet I had so much fun doing projects like that as well. I mean, working on Mission was phenomenal. I learned so much from Tom Cruise, from Chris McQuarrie, from all the cast involved in that. Having finished Angel Was Fallen last year, blowing stuff up and running around with guns is, it's equally fun. You fulfill whatever 10-year-old fantasies you may have. But yeah, no, I mean, there's each role. I can't specifically put it down to one. Each role offers something different, and it's. I guess that's the type of roles that I try and search out. As long as there's something in it for me to get my teeth into, then Yeah, I try and make the best of it.
Oh, for the casting process for something like Metallo, how did that go down? Did they kind of bring you in and see that you have this very very chiseled look, a look that I'm very envious of. If I lost another 100 pounds, I'd be back to looking like that. But by now, I'm just too lazy to do that. But but you have that you have a very distinct look. So when you came in for auditioning, what was their reaction to you?
Well, strangely enough, so I'm based in London. The casting for that I did via a self-tape, and it came very last minute. It got sent to me. Because it's all those projects are so shrouded in NDAs, you can't. You're often given at the first stage, you're not given much to go off at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they gave me a scene to read. You have to throw your hat in the ring and take a few risks and pitch yourself, as you would hope best, and sent the tape off. But then what took me by surprise is within 2 hours later I got a phone call and said, yeah, bang, they've got the part. So it's you can never quite tell A, what they're looking for, or B, how long these processes. I mean, often you just don't hear anything back. So to get the go ahead after an hour or two was quite nice.
For you personally, what would be your ultimate dream film to be a part of, or role to play? Something huge, or something very very confined and character driven? What would be that perfect thing for you to find?
Again, it's like asking someone what their favorite song is or something. I don't know if I can distill it quite down to one specific role, but as much as I love the action side of things, you get to use your physicality as an actor. You get to use one's presence, but also I shot a film last year called Waiting for Anya, which was a beautiful World War II film about a Jewish carpenter who has to give away his 7-year-old daughter as he's boarding a train to a concentration camp, and manages to throw his daughter onto a commuter train but can't escape himself, and then ends up setting up a network for smuggling refugee kids through France into Spain in the hope that one of them will be his daughter. So there's a very different genre of films to work at. It was something extremely character driven. There was no fighting. So something like that really allowed me to stretch my legs as an actor as well, in a different way. Yeah, I don't know. It's really bad answer to your question, I guess. But in short, I guess a film that, for me, like anything, whether it be music, whether it be film, whether it be art, whether it be anything with soul, anything with depth, anything with credibility, I guess will always interest me.
When and where will people be able to see The Marker? I know in the U.S. it comes out on the 16th of August, but is that a international release date, or is that just local for us here in the U.S.?
No, the whole situation of this has kind of taken me slightly by surprise, because we actually shot it, I think 3 years ago, maybe. So I think it's just newly released in the States. I think it's certainly had a UK release, and I think several other territories around the world. But that's more of a question for the producer, I think, unfortunately.
Oh, not a problem.
But yeah, no, it's amazing, and really, it really makes me happy that that a film like this gets, which essentially is a tiny little indie film, gets global traction as well. Even if that takes a while. It's amazing to see how these things still have legs and continue to spin, even though you've moved on and kind of almost long since forgotten about the project, I guess.
What other projects do you have coming up?
I mean, I've been a busy boy of late, I guess. So shot Mission Impossible end of last, well, sorry, no, at the beginning of last year. Then that released in the summer. Then I went off and did Angel Has Fallen, Jerry Butler franchise, which will be out also, I think, on the 23rd of August, I believe. Then this World War II film, which will come out later this year. Then I was out in Prague shooting a Netflix show called Letter for the King. It's kind of medieval fantasy type vibes, which, also fun. And then I just got back from Toronto, in fact, shooting a truly, truly wonderful film called Big Gold Brick with Andy Garcia, Emery Cohen, Oscar Isaac, and Megan Fox. And it's a really, really, and you only get these sort of scripts once every, really, I'll be honest with you, maybe once a year or twice a year. It's one of these scripts that really jump out at you and I'd gladly do for free. It was a really, really, really cool film, and the sort of film that I actually like to watch. Really dark comedy that gets more and more bizarre and absurd as you go on. But that's the sort of thing that I actually watch in my spare time. So it's and then now out in Hungary and Budapest, shooting another TV show where I play a New York gangster boss, the head of the Hudson Dusters.
So how good is your New York mob boss accent?
It's not too bad. I mean, it's based on a real life character, sort of Irish immigrants in the, I think, late 1890s. So it's a different one to do a kind of Irish New York accent, I guess, and it kind of drifts, I guess, between the two. But I'll do my best. I mean, I've been working closely with a dialect coach on that one, so it's we'll see. But no, it's another role that I can have an awful lot of fun with. It's interesting character, and it's been fascinating to learn about him as a real life person. I think whilst it's a reasonably fictionalized project, it draws from real life in lots of ways. So it's parts of history that I didn't know too much about, but it's always nice to learn.
So in other words, we're going to be seeing a lot of you in the coming months.
But my way of thinking about things is, as long as I've got either a film coming out or a project about to start, then I'm a happy man, because then there's always something to look forward to. But now to have essentially 5 or 6 projects about to drop this year, early next year, and still be working on stuff going on, it's a really a good place to be, and makes my agents very happy.